The city of Voron was burning. Bright red and orange flames lit up the sky, making the tall crystal towers shimmer like broken glass. Smoke curled into the air, thick and choking, and the streets were filled with the sound of alarms and distant explosions. People ran in every direction, some screaming, some silent with fear. The city had never seen anything like this. And yet, among the chaos, one man ran with a purpose. Sergeant Eli Vance, a human soldier in the Galactic Relief Corps, was sprinting through the ruined streets. On his back was a small alien girl, her delicate hands gripping his shoulders tightly. Her name was Lyra, and she belonged to the Eryxians, a species of light and color that glowed softly in the dark. Her kind had lived in peace for centuries, never needing weapons or defenses, but now they were caught in a war, not of their making. Lyra's eyes, bright and full of fear, clung to Eli as though he were her only hope. "Hold on, Lyra," Eli said, breathing hard. His voice was calm, though every step he took sent pain through his legs and back. "I've got you. We'll get out of this." The girl nodded, but her grip tightened almost painfully on his shoulders. Eli could feel her trembling. He knew the enemy drones above were still scanning the streets, hunting anyone who dared move. The ships in orbit moved with cold, precise efficiency, raining down metal and fire. Eli's own team had been scattered, some killed, some trapped. He was alone now with Lyra, and with only his determination to survive. The first explosion shook the ground beneath them. The noise was deafening, a mix of fire and tearing metal. Eli ducked instinctively, pressing Lyra's small body close to his back. He shielded her with his own body, covering her from falling debris. A shard of burning metal tore through the air and struck him in the left arm. Pain erupted like lightning, blinding and sharp. He hissed through his teeth but didn't stop. "Not for a second, Eli." "You're hurt," Lyra whispered, her voice trembling. She glowed faintly, a soft blue light from her skin flickering as if she were afraid she might disappear. "I'm fine," he grunted, ignoring the blood now dripping onto the ground. "We have to keep moving." The streets were a maze of rubble. Collapsed buildings and burning vehicles blocked the way, forcing Eli to jump over them or find another path. He had to think fast. The enemy drones above were scanning for life signs. If they detected them, the girl would be in immediate danger. Eli knew he had to reach the evacuation point, a small safe zone where the last dropships were supposed to be waiting. A blast from above shook the ground again, sending more debris raining down. Eli raised his free arm and shouted to Lyra, "Hold tight!" They dove behind a ruined transport pod, hiding from the heat and shrapnel. Eli could feel the blood running down his arm, sticky and hot, but he ignored it. Lyra's glowing hands reached toward him, her instinct to heal natural and untrained. "I can help," she said softly, but her energy flickered weakly. Eli shook his head. "No," he said firmly. "Humans are built to last." She looked at him with wide, worried eyes but said nothing. Eli could feel her fear, but he also felt her trust. That trust was heavier than any armor, and it gave him strength. A new alarm sounded in his helmet, signaling incoming drones. Eli looked up and saw 3 of them moving in a formation. Their sleek metallic bodies reflected the red light of the burning city. He knew he couldn't outrun them, not with Lyra on his back. He had to fight, even with one arm. Eli pulled a small plasma charge from his belt and slotted it in the ground behind the pod. He glanced at Lyra, her eyes wide. "When it goes off, jump with me," he said. She nodded, gripping him tightly. The drones were getting closer, scanning for movement. Eli could hear their mechanical voices, cold and indifferent, analyzing him as a target. He took a deep breath, his body shaking, and slammed his remaining hand down on the detonator. The explosion was enormous. Fire and light tore through the air, and the shockwave threw debris everywhere. Eli covered Lyra with his body, bracing against the force. When the smoke cleared, he was battered and bruised, his arm almost useless, but Lyra was still clinging to him. Her glow was faint but steady. She blinked, her large eyes looking up at him. You saved me," she whispered. "We're not done yet," Eli said, though he could barely stand. The drones were regrouping, scanning the streets again. Eli forced himself upright. Every step was agony, every breath a struggle. But he would not stop. Not for her. Not for anyone. He looked around, trying to find another path to the evacuation point. Broken buildings and fire blocked the streets, but he spotted a small alley that led toward the safe zone. He took Lyra in his arms and started moving, each step careful but deliberate. Behind them, the drones hovered, their sensors scanning relentlessly. Eli's mind raced. He had to stay ahead of them, A falling beam struck near them, shattering the ground. Eli jumped, shielding Lyra. She clung to him, her glow brightening for a moment as she tried to calm him. Though she did not have the experience to heal a wound like his, he felt the weight of responsibility crushing him. Every decision he made could mean life or death, not just for himself but for the girl who trusted him completely. Minutes felt like hours. The alley twisted and turned, each corner hiding unknown dangers. The drones followed, scanning for signs of life. Eli used the shadows, moving slowly, calculating every step. Lyra whispered encouragements, her soft voice like a light in the darkness. Her trust and courage were as powerful as any weapon. Finally, they reached a small courtyard. A few survivors were already there, but most had been caught by the bombing. Eli set Lyra down gently, keeping his own body between her and the open sky. He looked around, exhausted, bloodied, but determined. They were not safe yet, but they were alive. "You did it," Lyra said softly, her small hands brushing against his face. Eli smiled, though it hurt, and nodded. "This is only the beginning," he said. "We have to keep going." Above them, the drones circled, searching. Eli's mind raced with plans, calculations, and strategies. He had lost his arm, and the city was in ruins, but he still had the one thing that mattered: the will to protect the girl who could not protect herself. And as long as he could breathe, as long as he could stand, he would not let go. The city may have been falling, and the world may have seemed hopeless, but Eli Vance was human. And humans did not give up. They never dropped what mattered most. The sun disappeared behind the smoke, casting the city in twilight. In that darkness, a human and an alien girl moved forward together, step by painful step. The drones above hummed, searching for life, but they had underestimated one thing: the courage of a human heart. And that courage was enough to change everything. Eli Vance woke slowly, his vision blurred and heavy. The world was quiet, almost eerily so. Dust and smoke lingered in the air, making it hard to see far. His left arm throbbed painfully where it had been lost, but the worst part wasn't the pain. It was the fear of having failed. He shifted slightly and felt a small, soft weight against his chest. "Lyra, Lyra," he murmured, his voice hoarse. She stirred, glowing faintly, her translucent skin shimmering in the dim light. She was alive. That was all that mattered. Carefully, Eli reached out with his good arm, brushing a strand of glowing hair from her face. "You're awake," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. You saved me." "We saved each other," Eli corrected gently. He tried to smile, but it hurt too much. "We have to get out of here. The bombing isn't over yet." The ruins of Voron stretched in every direction. Buildings once tall and proud lay shattered like glass underfoot. Fires still burned in some parts, sending waves of heat that made breathing difficult. The streets were littered with debris, broken transport vehicles, and abandoned supplies. The drones above had not stopped patrolling. They were relentless, searching for any signs of life. Eli knew he had to keep moving, but he also knew he couldn't carry Lyra through this chaos alone. Carefully, he lifted her and began to move. Each step was painful, his stump arm catching on rubble and sharp edges, but he refused to give in. His mind focused on the single goal that had carried him this far: keep her safe. Humans were not known for giving up, and Eli had no intention of starting now. As they moved, Eli thought about the stories he had heard of human resilience, of people surviving impossible situations. Now he understood it from the inside. Fear existed, but it didn't control him. Pain existed, but it didn't stop him. What mattered was what he chose to do with every step he took, and he chose to protect the girl who had trusted him completely. They reached a narrow alleyway, partly shielded by the remnants of a collapsed building. Eli lowered Lyra to the ground and crouched beside her. "We can't stay here too long. Drones are still looking," he said. Lyra's glowing hands hovered over his chest, faintly pulsing as she tried to calm him. "You're hurt," she said softly. "I can try to heal you a little." Eli shook his head. "It's okay, just help me keep moving." Her small hands pressed against his chest, sending a warm, comforting glow through him. It wasn't enough to heal the wound, but it gave him strength to stand. Humans were built to endure, he reminded himself, and for the first time since the bombing, he felt hope that they might actually survive. As they stepped back into the open, a shadow passed overhead. Eli froze, instinctively shielding Lyra behind him. Two drones hovered above, scanning the streets. He had no weapons to fight them directly, only his wits and determination. He had to think fast. He scanned the area and spotted a ruined transport vehicle with a broken door. "Inside now," he whispered. They darted toward it, moving quickly but carefully. The vehicle provided cover, and Eli pressed Lyra against his chest, making himself as small a target as possible. The drones scanned past them. Moving on to the next block, Eli let out a slow breath, feeling the tension in his body ease slightly. Lyra looked up at him with wide eyes. "You're amazing," she said. "Humans just don't give up," he said simply. "Even when it's hard, even when it hurts, we keep going." They stayed inside the ruined transport for several minutes, listening to the sounds of the city around them. Fires crackled in the distance, and the faint hum of drones passed overhead. Eli knew that staying still for too long was dangerous, but he also knew that rushing blindly could be worse. Survival required patience as much as courage. Finally, he made a decision. "We're going to make it to the evacuation point," he said firmly. "I don't know how, but we will. Stay close to me." With Lyra in his arms, he stepped out of the vehicle. The streets were quieter now, though danger still lingered. He moved slowly, checking every corner, scanning the sky above. Each step was calculated, each movement deliberate. They were a team now, bound by trust and the shared goal of survival. After what felt like hours, they reached a wider street. In the distance, Eli saw the glint of metal against the smoky sky. It was a human dropship, the UNS Resolute. The vessel was battered and worn, but it was unmistakably a symbol of hope. Eli's heart leapt. They were not alone. Rescue was possible. He shouted toward the dropship, waving his free arm. The ship adjusted its position, hovering lower. A rope ladder descended, swaying in the wind. Eli moved quickly to reach it, Lyra clinging to him tightly. "Almost there," he said, gritting his teeth against the pain. "Just a little farther." As they reached the ladder, Eli heard the faint hum of drones approaching. He glanced up at the ship, knowing they had only moments. He lifted Lyra carefully and started climbing. The ladder shook under their combined weight, but Eli's determination did not waver. Step by step, they moved upward, away from the dangers below. Halfway up, Eli slipped slightly. His remaining hand gripped the ladder tightly, but his lost arm made it more difficult to balance. Lyra panicked, her glow brightening as she tried to help stabilize them. "Hold on," she cried. "I've got you," Eli said, pushing through the fear. Humans adapted. Humans survived. He adjusted his weight, gripping the ladder firmly with his good hand, and slowly climbed upward. Every second counted, and he refused to let go. Finally, they reached the top. Crew members of the dropship pulled them aboard, securing them safely inside. Eli collapsed onto the floor, exhausted and covered in dust and blood. Lyra hugged him tightly, her small arms wrapped around his neck. "We made it," she whispered. "Yes," Eli said, smiling despite the pain. "We made it." The medics moved quickly, tending to Eli's wounds. His lost arm had been cauterized and stabilized, and he would survive. Lyra stayed close, her soft glow a comforting presence beside him. She watched as the human crew worked, her eyes filled with gratitude and awe. Days later, when the dropship reached a safe human base on a nearby planet, Eli and Lyra were greeted by other humans and Orixians alike. The story of their survival spread quickly. Eli had risked everything, lost an arm, and refused to abandon the girl. In return, he had saved a life that was precious to an entire species. Lyra stood beside him as representatives of her people approached. She glowed softly, her colors vibrant and steady. "This is him," she said. "He saved me." He didn't let go. The Orixians bowed their heads in respect. Humans were already admired in many parts of the galaxy, but here Eli's actions became a symbol. Courage, determination, and selflessness, the qualities that made humans exceptional, had shone through. Eli felt a strange mix of pride and humility. He had only done what anyone would do. He had only refused to give up. But watching Lyra safe and the Orixians honoring them, he understood that sometimes survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about inspiring hope, protecting those who could not protect themselves, and proving that even in the darkest moments humans could rise above. Weeks later, Eli walked through the reconstructed human base, his new cybernetic arm humming softly as it adjusted to his movements. Lyra followed, her hand in his good one. The bond between them was unspoken but undeniable. They had faced death together and survived. They had learned the true meaning of trust, courage, and determination. Across the galaxy, news of their story traveled. Humans were known for many things, but this was different. This was not about technology, not about weapons, not about conquest. It was about heart. Humans had refused to drop what mattered most, even at the cost of their own safety. And that truth inspired countless others, alien and human alike, to believe in the resilience and bravery of humanity. In the evenings, Eli and Lyra would sit on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The city of Voron remained in ruins below, but hope had been restored. They had survived. They had proven that even when everything seemed lost, a human's determination could make all the difference. And as they watched the twin suns set on the horizon, Eli realized something profound. Humans did not just survive. Humans endured. Humans protected. Humans inspired. And that was a force more powerful than any bomb, any drone, any war. Humans did not give up. Humans never dropped what mattered. Together, Eli and Lyra faced the future, not with fear, but with courage, determination, and a bond that could withstand any storm. The story of the human who refused to let go became legend, a shining example of why humanity, even among countless stars, was truly extraordinary.